I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could reduce the noise in the room, then we can get started, and we did before I even had to say that. So welcome, everybody. The first item on our business is we're going to recognize an employee of the month. And so someone's going to get up and they're going to talk about this and announce this. It might be someone from the Public Works Department. Well, looks like you're close, so.
Todd Rhodes?
Yep.
Let me come up there. Yes, please. Get the spotlight, Todd. So our employee of the month this month is from Public Works, Todd Rhodes. Todd Rhodes began working for Public Works back on March 3rd of 1997. Todd has worked in every department within Public Works and can be called on at any time for any given task. He has excelled in the traffic signal technician field and is an accomplished equipment operator. His ability to problem solve sets him apart from other employees within Public Works. And we are very proud and honored to have Todd as an operator and as a signal technician. He has saved the city a lot of money over the years. We quit doing contracting our traffic signal work out about 10 years ago and pushed that off to Todd, and he has done a wonderful job at it.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, we can
Hey guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you,
one more
Todd.
thing, I almost forgot.
Uh-oh.
We've got a gift certificate that goes along with that.
Sweet.
I just want to add my congratulations. Congratulations, Todd.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's nice to drive around the city and see him high on the in the bucket, and I think I'd never get up there. Good job. I wouldn't.
I would. Heartbeat.
Do you ever do a little gutter cleaning part-time, Todd? Todd? Do you ever do a little gutter cleaning part-time while you're out there, up in that bucket?
I never
You
have.
know?
I see a lot of gutters that could be cleaned when I'm up there.
Only kidding, I'm sure. Okay, next is our weekly commission reports, and so we'll start with Commissioner Moore.
Okay. This week I need to get on the right week here. I have several housing coalition meetings this week, and then my regular briefing on Thursday. I want to remind everybody to call your mamas on Mother's Day, which is the 14th on Sunday. And then I'll announce early that we have the Shelton Spring Cleanup. That looks like it's going to be a big deal. The Skookum Rotary and the Downtown Merchants Association are putting together crews to clean up our downtown, our Railroad Avenue from 1st Street to 7th Street. I believe Shelton to the Top is also involved. And they are looking for anyone who would like to volunteer amongst the citizens or businesses of Shelton. There is room for everyone to come and show our pride in our beautiful city.
Yeah, pressure washers.
And that will take place on Saturday, May 20th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and we'll announce it again next week so that nobody has an opportunity to forget.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner McDowell?
I'm going to be leaving in the morning, heading to over to Lake Chelan for the Left Board Conference. That's once a year, and that is the board that manages the medical part of our retired firefighters and police officers within the county and the city. So I will be there from Tuesday. We'll be back on Friday. And then on a personal note, I will be attending the Humane Society's benefit dinner at Alderbrook Saturday night, and we will be raising money to fund the Humane Society, which takes care of stray cats and dogs and getting ready for them to be adopted out. So that's what I will be doing. That's my week.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow is Tuesday. I will be attending my MACECOM board meeting. And on Wednesday, I will be in the morning having a special Economic Development Council meeting in our office over on CODA. And then in the evening, I plan to be at the Chamber After Hours event. Thursday, I had something that I was planning to do, but yeah, I missed it because I wrote something down that I know it's not it. So forgive me for that. I will be doing one other item on Thursday. So that completes our weekly commission reports. And now is the opportunity for any general public comment. And if we have somebody that's filled in a card, we welcome them at this time.
We do. Forrest?
Thank you very much, Commission. I'm Forrest Cooper, 409 West Railroad Avenue. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to Commissioner McDowell and Commissioner Moore for pursuing the colored crosswalks on the side streets in addition to the ones on Railroad. I think the colored crosswalks in the intersections creates a unification that is seen not only by the business community but also by people down there in cars and on foot. So I noticed that the Journal published an article that talked a little bit about the issue of funding those. And I noticed that one of the commissioners brought up an idea, I'm going to call it an idea, of possibly a sponsorship or something from the business community. I felt it would be an opportunity to give you guys a little bit of background from the business community on how we have participated in this over the years. As you all know, that Forterra was hired to create a visioning plan and workshop to create a kind of a vision for the future for Railroad. That was funded three ways. $18,000 was raised by the city, by Green Diamond, and by the Chamber or the business community downtown. So I'd like to remind you that the business community has invested in this in a way already. Another one is the Transportation Benefit District could be a wonderful funding source for improvements such as this. I want to remind you that the Transportation Benefit District is a 0.2% sales tax that is applied, and it is completely collected by the business community. So the more business we have, the more money goes into the Transportation Benefit District. That's also a cost that we have to pass on to our patrons. So patrons are paying for the improvements of our streets. And I'd like to also comment on that. I was blown away the first year after the Transportation Benefit District was put in place, primarily by Commissioner Olson at the time. Good job. I was blown away at how many streets were actually repaired within that first year. And it only created some optimism for the future. And I'd just like to say congratulations, Mike, the road crew, Todd. He totally deserves Employee of the Month, by the way. But I just want to remind you guys that people come to you and say, I have a pothole in front of my house that could sink a car. I want you to remember that the business community are the ones that are actually collecting this money. The more business we have, the more money we will create to fix those car-swallowing potholes. Now, as far as sponsorship, and also I commented a couple weeks ago on artwork in the crosswalks, I'd like to remind you that I was pretty instrumental in actually getting the red crosswalks downtown. At the time, our public works director said that we could not have colored crosswalks because of the federal highway, the federal aid route that we have there. And I wanted to read just this paragraph from Don Peterson, if I can respectfully go over by a minute.
Is it not a minute, 2 sentences?
I think it's very pertinent to a decision you're making today, so I would really like to read this.
You know the rules. You usually time those things out just right. I'm sorry, we've had this one last week.
My written ones have not been getting heard, so I've decided to talk face to face with you folks today.
Okay.
So this is straight from Federal Highway,
Okay, now,
and I'm not going to continue. I'm just going to tell you what it is.
You can give us a copy of it.
Let me tell you what it is on the record, and I will give you a copy. This goes into detail about the actual requirements by Federal Highway for our crosswalks, which include colors and textures.
Thank you very much.
I will email this to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Forrest.
All right, anybody else? No. Okay. All right. Next is the consent agenda, and do we have, are we ready for reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes. Can we please have that?
Consent agenda, vouchers numbered 14404 through 14424 in the amount of $33,576.39.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
There is a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as read. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda passes. There is nothing on the action agenda today, but we have a few items under the business agenda. And the first thing is going to be about a public defender contract, and this will be presented to us by Assistant Manager Vicki Look.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Every once in a while, the city will go out for a request for proposals for some of the contract services that we provide. And recently, we went out for a request for proposals for the indigent criminal defense services that is attached to our municipal court. We advertised and had a couple applications that we received, proposals that we received. And one of them that was submitted was from Sean Tajner of Tajner Law P. LLC, who was providing it part-time for us. And he has now grown his firm and has additional attorneys working for him, and he wanted to propose that he do 100% of the contract work for us for those services. He did, and we got the proposals and reviewed it and accepted his proposal, and I'm bringing that contract forward for you today, which is attached to your briefing sheet. We also get $40,000 in funding from the Office of Public Defense because there is a limit on how many cases can be provided, so they help us supplement what we need to pay for those indigent defense services. And also they provided $1,100 in training for the attorneys that provide those services for the folks that are in need of those services. So in front of you, I have the 2017 contract, and it is ongoing until notice is given, and then we review it every 3 or 4 years and seek proposals so that we can make sure that we're getting the best services possible and opening the field up for other contractors that provide similar services. So if there's any questions that I can answer for you, I'd be happy to.
Any questions or comments?
No.
I don't have any.
Okay.
Looks good to me. Thank you very much.
Then
And
we're
so-
requesting to
Yeah.
put it on next week's
Yes,
action
we will
agenda.
please place this item on the action agenda for May 15th, 2017.
Thank you.
All right, the second item we have here is about the Franklin Street reconfiguration.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I know that we have been reconfiguring quite a bit lately, but one thing that we did vow to you is that we would bring forward issues that we had to try to rectify problems. And we have found a problem that we had with a former project of the City of Shelton's, and that would be Franklin Street from 5th to 7th. Back in February and March of 2015, we did some construction to add a bump out and designate that 2-block section of Franklin to a one-way street with 2 bus-only lanes and 1 eastbound lane from 7th to 5th. And what we are bringing forward today is to reconfigure that back to 2-way traffic with a bus-only lane that is closest to the MTA facility that is on Franklin. We have found multiple issues with not only the motorist using that street, but also one of the biggest issues was the pedestrian traffic down there, and those folks just losing the general thought that that is an actual city street and that it is not a private roadway or a back alley that they just sprint across at any point within the 2 blocks. So we're thinking that moving it back to the 2-way traffic would reinstate some sanity down there. so that maybe they would respect that as an actual city street. So within your packet is an illustration of what the configuration would look like. And if you have any further questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
I will say, just from my, when we did that, from my communication with business people and stuff around that area, and my own perceptions in trying to drive, that it does seem that's been very confusing, and I think that it does need to be addressed. And so I'm in favor of it.
Good. I think the biggest thing down there that we have seen is just the lack of respect for an actual city street, from pedestrians crossing all over the place, not in the crosswalk, from the motorized public motorists just pulling up and parking in the middle of the road to drop off. Delivery trucks, there is a photo that was taken by MTA where we had a couple of delivery trucks and also a UPS delivery van that were just parked in the street. So it looked more like a private street than a well-respected public street.
I think the thing that frustrated me the most about that, and you know what it is, was coming out of Safeway. That was the craziest thing for people coming the one way down, and they had to come in front of you to get into Safeway. When you're trying to go left to get out, it did not make absolutely no sense at all.
Well, we still have quite a few that do make a right-hand turn there and go the wrong way out to 7th Street. So.
I can see that, but that
Yeah.
was just a issue with me.
So, Craig, I don't know if I missed it. Did you just say what's going to happen to the traffic light? Is the traffic light going to stay right there?
The rapid flasher?
Uh-huh.
We've talked to MTA. We've also talked to our traffic engineer, our consultant traffic engineer, and also our city engineer, and we have come to the conclusion that we don't necessarily need that rapid flasher, that we did some pedestrian counts down there and found that well less than 10% actually use the rapid flasher. So the proposal that we would have would be to move that rapid flasher to a location that would be better utilized, most likely in front of the junior high up on Wallace Nealon.
Uh-huh.
There's a need for a rapid flasher up there, and MTA has given us their authorization to move that up to that location. So I think it would be much better utilized up with that traffic from the junior high back and forth.
I second that. I think that it is well needed up there. So, but are we going to have a crosswalk between Safeway and the Mason Transit Authority?
There is a crosswalk there now.
So the rapid flashers are all that's going to be moved?
Yes.
The crosswalk will remain in the same place?
Correct. We would not propose to eliminate that crosswalk
Okay.
at this time.
Okay, that was my concern.
Whether the general public will actually use it
You know, I've
is yet to
never
be seen.
noticed that crosswalk there because I'm so upset trying to get out that I don't see it.
Yes.
And
I
people
don't-
aren't even using it.
I don't think you're alone.
I use it frequently. I will say I use it frequently, but pretty much I never have turned on the flashers because it seems to be a safe enough crossing there, and I think it'll be even safer having not that confusion of of turning and cars turning in front. So, yeah, my concern was just that we do retain a crosswalk there. And Mason Transit Authority is in favor of this as well.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they're in favor of it. They are okay with it at this point and understand the need to turn that back to two-way traffic.
Okay.
We have accommodated them with a few things that they have requested. A buffer lane just outside of the bus lane between that bus-only lane and what would be eastbound traffic. They had a concern for pedestrian traffic getting in between the actual buses and just walking into the traveled lane. So we added a 4-foot buffer so that if a pedestrian did walk out from behind a bus, they would have a couple of steps before they actually hit the traveled lane, so that a motorist could potentially see them in time to stop So we did add that, and we did also add a taper on both ends for their buses coming in and out of MTA.
Is that, and the four-way stop is going to remain at Fifth Street?
We will be turning that back to the way it was before, would be the proposal, is to take the stop signs out on Fifth and leave the two up on Franklin. That's the configuration that we had before, so we would propose to go back to that configuration.
Okay, so Franklin will be just a through street without a stop?
Franklin would be the stop street.
Franklin would be the stop street. Okay, and Fifth would be the one you go through?
Fifth would be the through street.
Okay. I'm concerned about our poor citizens trying to figure this out, so hopefully let's make this the last change for a while, but I think it does make sense.
I think it'll be less confusing to try to figure out now than it still is to this day. So we will be taking out that bump out that protects
Yeah.
that westbound lane entering off of Fifth Street. So we'll take that out and just convert it back to a standard two-way street.
Okay. And are we going to be losing a lot of parking spaces, or are we going to be about the same?
You'll lose a couple because we are proposing to go back to parallel parking instead of the
Okay.
front-end angled parking that you have on that roadway. So I think when we laid it out, we were losing 2 stalls.
Okay. Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So what we're doing here is we concur that we're placing this on the action agenda for May 15th, 2017. Thank you. All right, next is administration reports, and I think we've already done the employee. We moved that up earlier. So we're into, it looks like Ryan Whedon Railroad Avenue crosswalk.
I told you last week that we'd bring back some information on the side street crosswalks from 1st to 7th. So a recap, and then we'll talk about what transpired last week with Washington Department of Transportation, which I think will be helpful, and then we can talk about an estimate. So just to recap, we had $15,000 to put in a traffic dot or a mini circle at 4th and Railroad. We've utilized that with this project to improve the road diet, and the budget that you heard a couple weeks ago was $20,000, of which $5,000 will be absorbed through the street department. We had a concern moving forward that we weren't going to be able to get done in time for Forest Festival. We're on a very tight schedule. Last week, Public Works Department and then the mayor went over as well to Washington, or to WashDOT, to discuss their work. So WashDOT actually owns the intersection at 1st and Railroad, and we need them to help because to reduce from 1 lane, we need 1 lane coming in to Railroad. They initially told us on Monday that their timeline was likely going to be 3 or 4 months, and through a good amount of work from our public works staff and then going over for an in-person discussion, they have agreed to help us get that done, and they're going to come in, weather permitting, and get their work done on May 22nd, which will be a big help. So weather permitting, we should have all the work done prior to Forest Festival. With that being said, there is an additional cost for their work. So they've estimated $2,000 to $4,000 for them to come through, change their signals to arrows, and put up some extra signage. So they're going to have their crew out to do that work. With regard to the side street crosswalks, we are looking at an estimate of $16,100. That's in addition to what was proposed by staff 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that would cover side streets from 1st to 7th, and then around the bend, if you will, at 7th, it would go all the way around. So there's the potential at 7th that you could stop and kind of bookend from 1st to 7th without doing the sides and the other side of 7th Street in front of where Batstones used to be.
And that would bring the cost down a little bit.
It would bring it down to an estimated $11,700. And that would essentially be from 1st to 7th without side streets at 1st or 7th.
Are we supposed to comment?
You want us to give some feedback on this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we can comment.
Well, I've been thinking about this last week. I thought that would be great to spend this week before, I'm not exactly sure when it was, but to spend the $7,000, $8,000 and get the side streets red, crosswalks done. And I totally think that it would just look awesome to do this. And then it came up to where it'd probably be more like 15,000, and then Craig said we probably could get it down to 11,000 if we did this and that. So this morning I was thinking, we'd have the transportation benefit district money, which is brought in by everybody that shops in Shelton, businesses that bring in customers that come into their stores. So everybody, county and citywide, even out-of-towners that shop here in Shelton, they all contribute to this benefit district, the tax benefit district. And it's for streets, sidewalks, crosswalks, lights, whatever. And we have a good little amount I believe we have a good little amount in that fund right now. The thing I'm concerned about is that we could use it out of that, which would be great, or we could go elsewhere, but we don't know if there's any money elsewhere at this point, not for a few months. So I kind of was thinking that since it's a town issue and a town project, shopping and building this money up, we could take this money and pave us a street somewhere in town, which would be great because people are hollering to have their streets. But now that I think about it, I think that I would probably like to go ahead and do that, use some of the money out of the fund and get this done. And I may be out to lunch on this one, but I think that it would affect many more than just the people on a street that's getting their street paved. So that's how I feel about that.
All right.
Okay. Is it my turn?
You can if you want.
Okay. I believe that we owe it to our citizens to give them the very best that we can do. And we know that our real estate excise tax will be going up because if you ask any realtor around, the real estate market is hot and hopping. And traditionally that has been a fund that has funded street improvements. I don't know if it would be sidewalks or at least the paving of the streets and all that. So I anticipate that fund is going to get higher. I do believe, we would have to check, that I do believe that the transportation benefit district dollars could be used for this. And I do believe that if we are a little more creative, that we can also justify increasing the amount of dollars that are going into our general fund in other ways, such as negotiating and changing some of the fees that we have reduced for our building and development fees. So it's my opinion that Shelton deserves the best. I believe that there are things that we're so limited on as far as what we can actually do, such as reducing our fees for our utilities. We're kind of limited what we can do. So the people that are here who support our businesses, who support our community, deserve and they want a better city. And I believe that this would greatly enhance our downtown. It would greatly enhance our business community, our shopping experience downtown, as well as the visual that would show that we care about our community. And frankly, one of my major reasons for this, besides the aesthetically, is I don't believe it would be safe to have just the white bars going across the streets where we have stop signs. I think that the visual, as far as the perception of the darker painted crosswalks on the side, the white painted lines going through would indicate to me that you just drive through there. But I am in favor of whatever we do to find the money to finish the project and complete the painted crosswalks on the numbered streets as well.
Can I say one more thing?
No,
Okay, your turn?
it is my turn, but go ahead.
Okay. I know that we have citizens that, back to the paving of the streets, we have citizens that really want our streets paved. And if there was no money in this Transportation Benefit District Fund, and we were at a point where we don't know if there's much money in the street fund, and we wouldn't know for several months, and are we just taking a guess at this? That would make me very uncomfortable to go ahead with a project. It's like, doing something on your house and not knowing if there's going to be any money, but you go ahead and do it, and hopefully the money comes in. That makes me very nervous on that. But we do know there is money in the fund, and if we can do a project for $11,000 or $12,000 out of that fund, I think that makes the downtown area just sparkle. So that's my opinion.
All right. And I thought about this, and, I made my decision earlier, and then I've been thinking a lot about this, actually. And what I would like to say is that the one thing that Shelton has not been real good at in the past is sticking to budgets. And understanding that everything you do, whether it's millions and millions of dollars or just a few tens of thousands of dollars, it has consequences if you go. That's why you have a budget. You have a budget that says, we're going to do this year. This is within our budget. And I think we've done the past few years very well at not going outside our budget. And so, to me, I could see what's $15,000, but I really believe that we are in a process of turning the financial direction of this city around to where we have been a lot more prudent in these things. And what I'm looking at is, and I will say this statement right here, the one thing we don't do real well is it's called deferred gratification. That's the word that I like to come up with, is that we, like everybody, we want things now. And so if we had practiced a little more deferred gratification over the past, we might not have probably been $47+ million in debt. We might have been less in debt. So this is kind of like a decision that I'm going to vote against this as I did before. Not that I don't want them done. I would love to have them done. But what I would do is I would just put it in next year's budget, because we've had some emergency expenses that have come up too in the past week or two. And so, Craig Gregory, could I draw from your wisdom on this? How are you doing on your budget? Because this goes outside of the budget, and we were, the pumps we had to get fixed and everything. So haven't we kind of gone into the zone to where your budget, you're kind of on the edge of things a little bit there?
Are you talking utility budgets or general fund budgets?
Well, I guess you can talk about both if you want. I'm just saying that we have a budget, and we have a little extra in the budget to take care of emergency needs. Okay, and I thought in one of these, whether it's utilities, that might be the one where the pumps were, that you're pressing the envelope for the year on how much extra you've got.
Utility budgets are having some issues right now.
Having some
Some
issues.
major expenses that we did not have budgeted, so we are going to struggle in our utility budgets this year. That is correct.
Okay, that's the budget I was kind of talking about. Here's the other thing is I'm really excited that we had the TBD fund, but when we did this, we said, we want asphalt. We want pavement. We don't want a lot of sidewalks. We don't, we're really, you want to talk about a commitment to our citizens. We made a commitment to them that we would put a majority of this money into paving streets, and painting isn't exactly pavement. Now, I already said I'd love to have them. I'm not against them, but I do know that if we practiced a little more deferred gratification, then what we do is say, let's make it a commitment. Let's make it a priority next year. This will be in the budget, and we will do them next year. Now, that's kind of where I'm leaning on the situation. Back to your point, Ryan, you talked about the cost $16,100, but then there was something you said $11,700. So could you refresh my memory?
Sure.
We won't do a couple of things if we,
So the difference there is that once you hit 7th, so where the Shelton Inn is, we would stop there and not do across the street and the side streets at 7th.
okay, so it's kind of a scaled down version.
Correct. We would
Okay.
take off 3 legs.
Right. And Commissioner McDowell and Commissioner Moore, are you happy with that $11,700 project? That's where we are, right?
If Craig and Ryan were to say, we can't do it for anything less than 16,000 or 15,000, I would say, we're gonna have to wait. But if you can scale it down to, I know it's just not a whole lot less, but it is somewhat less, then, can we then next year do the ones that we're leaving off now?
Well, I'm sure we can. I just wanted to know that you both were on, were you, Commissioner Moore, were you on?
I'm just waiting for another chance to talk, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
So,
I will,
I'm comfortable.
I have some questions.
I'm comfortable with the 11,000. I
Okay.
would not be at 15,000. I would probably say let's wait
Okay.
on that. But if we can do it for 11,700-ish, if it looks like it's gonna go more than that, I don't know.
Okay, so, this is what it's all about, is making tough decisions, It's kind of like we got rules and policies and budgets and all this kind of a deal, and who knows what happens. We may have some other emergencies, which I can guarantee you we will this year, which is more money. So I'm going to not support either one of these, not that I don't think it's a good idea, but it's just we have a budget. We have a commitment to our citizens to try and stay within a budget. We have a commitment to our cities to put most of that TBD money into asphalt rather than paint. And that, to me, doing the railroad highway diet it's not the end of the world if we chose to do that later. It's kind of like, should I get a Cadillac with all the extra features or just get the Cadillac, So we all have budgets in our lives and things, and so I would say do it next year. That's only my opinion. I'm only one of 3. So Commissioner Moore, you can
Yes,
you
thank
can have
you.
your time now.
Thank you. Okay. I would second what the mayor said, as far as I am a bit uncomfortable about using the Transportation Benefit District monies for this. I believe that legally we can, but I don't believe that is the, I don't believe that's what we marketed and how we got the support of our citizens. I know that it was a controversial issue even between the commissioners as far as getting that passed. And so I think that we have to honor the desires of the citizen and their votes for this. However, that money is there. I don't know, are REIT funds available can we use the REIT funds for this, or does
I
anybody
don't
know
know,
that
but I
off
can
the?
check into it.
Okay, and then finally, I do believe our general fund will be improving this year through various other options, various ways. And so I believe that we won't have problem meeting that through whichever means that we choose. I would like to, just for the point of clarification, point out that the pumps were not, the pump issue that we've had, the pump emergency that we've had, that money is out of a separate fund.
That's
That is out
right.
of a utility fund and not the general fund, which is
Right.
what we would be using this for. We don't have a separate street utility, so we get the funding for our streets through several different pots of money and for, so as far as I'm aware, the better fund for this street painting would be out of our general fund. But that isn't to say we can't get it. But we can't get money from the sewer or the water fund to pay for streets or vice versa. So I am in favor. I would prefer to do the entire streets, but I do understand the constraints of our budget. And if it means getting the numbered streets paved, if we can get agreement from 2 of us commissioners, then I would go with the reduced street area to get those numbered streets painted as well. And I believe, as I said a few weeks ago, I believe that sometimes the benefits that we can get from doing improvements are far greater than the money that we expend for those, in the way that our community feels about itself, in the experience that visitors come, and I just feel strongly that we need to do this.
Okay. I had a question for our city manager. If we chose not to do the transportation benefit money, let's say we're not going to do that, where would this, it would be, and I think, I don't know, I'm leaning towards we'll probably will come to a consensus around the $11,700. Where would the money come from?
It would have to come from general fund.
General fund.
Or streets, and which is one and the same. We'd, at that point, need to figure out a way to pay for it. If we did have excess revenue, we could certainly look there. Otherwise, it would be through a budget amendment where we look at something that we're not going to do.
Or reserves, right?
I wouldn't recommend using reserves for this.
I mean, but we have probably that money in the general fund to do this if we don't have other situations. I mean.
Potentially.
Potentially. Okay. Well, I think that we're probably getting close. And again, this is just the process. We all have opinions. And so I guess it's between Commissioner Moore and Commissioner McDowell on the 11,700 or the 16. I guess, are we going to do a motion? It looks like this is something that you're just presenting as a report.
Right.
But I think we do need to move. I think we can move forward with this.
It sounds like there's
Consensus
still
to do
the
something, yeah.
same amount of people that want to move forward.
Uh-huh.
So do we need a motion for that, or do we didn't ever move not to go forward
Correct.
with it? So
Correct.
it would be a modification at this point?
I think you could amend, because I think you did use a dollar amount. We did. The first
Did
one.
we? For the
So I
7,000.
think you could amend that
Okay.
motion to increase.
Okay, I would like to, I move that we amend the prior motion that we accepted and voted on to do the entire side street painting along Railroad Avenue, the numbered streets crosswalks, to modify that motion to take off the First Street intersection and the 7th Street intersection for a budget amendment of $11,700.
Does that sound okay? All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, there's a
Before you vote, can we do public comment, see if there's anything?
Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
We've kind of got an action thing. If anybody else has some comments they want to add into this mix, this would be an opportunity where we would welcome comments pertaining to this specific issue. Yes, Mr. Cooper's already signed up. There's 3 more minutes.
Awesome. Thank you, commissioners. You heard a little bit of my encouragement there earlier about the business community, and I just want to reiterate that the Transportation Benefit District is collected by businesses. What that means is that the more business we generate, the more money we create for those funds. When you do an improvement that's an aesthetic improvement like this, it not only makes the town look better and generate more business, it also boosts morale. It lets the businesses know that you're thinking about them and you appreciate what they're doing down there. There have been a lot of citizens that have participated and businesses that have participated in the downtown visioning. And if we can give them some sort of visual result from all of their efforts and all of their money that's been involved in investing in this, a small hint of color would go a long ways. So thank you for considering this, and I would just like to remind you that we all need a morale boost once in a while, and we all appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Is there somebody else?
Yes, we have Jeannie.
So hi, I'm Jeannie Raywalt. I live at 1017 North 8th Street on North Cliff, and I am the executive director for Mason Matters. And I wanted to point out that healthy communities involve corridors and places where people come to walk and to play and to shop. They include active local participation, integration of local and state planning efforts, which it sounds like we're doing with the Washington State DOT and pilot studies to help the communities in planning efforts. And I just want to say that you guys have done this the right way. You've tried things, and if they didn't work, you've listened and you've changed them. And I'm really excited to have the red crosswalks, and I will help to promote the reason why they're important. And maybe Ms. Crone, who wrote an letter to the editor in the Journal about misappropriation of funds and everything, maybe I can get a hold of her and talk to her a little bit about how it really is going to help our community and bring more dollars to the community to get more roads paved. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, I had a point before we make this motion, or did we decide, do we need to make a distinction on whether we're going to get the money out of the Transportation Benefit District or the general fund? Do we need that, we're just okaying it, or do we need to specifically say which fund we want to take this out of? That's,
Can we come back on that?
It would be helpful to know.
yeah, I would think so.
But I think that it might also be helpful for you if we can get some information on where we are with the general fund. So if you vote to move forward, we can certainly figure that out and bring it back to get direction before we need to pay for it.
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right, then I guess we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion passes. All right. Now, what we have is, it looks like, a department updates, and the first one here, or one, is Vicki Look, our city assistant manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we've been pretty busy in the administration department. I have now hired a new administrative assistant for human resources. Mary Harold worked here before, and she just came back and joined me in providing services for human resources. So we've been looking at a lot of job descriptions and human resource policies. We have a recruitment for the city clerk. It closed on Friday, and we have received over 30 applications for that.
Wow.
So we will be screening those. The manager and I will be doing that and having interviews soon. We also are interviewing for CSO position, which is the Community Service Officer, and through our Civil Service Commission, we'll be bringing that forward to them, the recommendation for the hiring, and also a corporal testing is the internal promotion opportunity for some of our police officers. So we've been really busy doing that, and we also are in union negotiations with our finance guild, and we have all three up that we have the finance, customer service, and police guild negotiations coming up, and we're preparing for that. Public Works has their contract through 2018, but we will be looking at different medical plans for the city and employees as our Association of Washington Cities is no longer going to be offering the plans we're on right now. So we're working as a group to look through that. Finance, our director Nola is in charge of that. So lots of work there, and I appreciate her help. And so that's pretty much what we've been up to.
Thank you very much for the update. All right, next we have Craig Gregory from the Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. For Public Works and Engineering, we have been extremely busy moving forward with a bunch of different projects. One of the main ones starting this week are roadway striping and all over the city, and also the layout of the new configuration down on Railroad Avenue. So roadway striping throughout the city started last night. The roadway layout for Railroad Avenue will start this week, so you'll see some guys out there in orange standing in the street getting ready for that layout so that they can come in and stripe. And then on the 21st of this month, we will have the hydro strippers come in and take all of the paint off of Railroad Avenue, and also Franklin if we decide to move forward with that one. And then that will start the evening of the 21st, which is a Sunday. Stripe Right will be in doing that. And then the long line striping throughout the city, including Railroad Avenue, will take place on the morning of the 22nd. The crosswalks downtown on the
railroad portion will start on Monday of next week, so you'll see some red paint starting to go on the ground out there on Railroad Avenue. And an overall cleanup of downtown and also Mountain View will start next week, potentially as early as later this week. We have already started some downtown cleaning with pressure washing of the planter boxes and the sidewalk containers, and also the metal benches have looked pretty grimy downtown, so we've been pressure washing those when we can. We will also be doing the Jersey barrier that comes down Olympic Highway North. It is looking a little ragged at this point, so we will be doing some cleaning around town throughout the next couple of weeks before Forest Festival. So we're hoping to get a bunch of that done. And then Forest Festival, obviously, is the first weekend in June, so that is rapidly approaching, and we have got quite a bit of activity related to that as far as edge hole filling, roadway patching, grinding downtown sidewalks so that we'd reduce some of those tripping hazards, and some other things related to Forest Festival. So the guys have got a few weeks to try to get through that. I want to thank the mayor for going over to WashDOT with us last week. They were not very hopeful that they were going to be able to get their traffic revisions done and add that additional signal head. But with some work and persuasion, they have offered to help us out and get that work done at the same time as the hydro stripping and the long lining will be done. So the coordination of that really came together. Now, if we can just keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't rain that day, we will be in good shape. So we do have some contingency plans later in that week if we do get some rain on that Sunday and Monday. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. Last week, up on 13th Street, the water department took out some dead or dying trees that were in the watershed. They took out quite a few of them on the corner of 13th and Spring Road, and they will be moving forward with that cleanup. They have contacted Green Diamond, who has offered to donate the seedlings to go back in there, which was great. We really appreciate that. So we will be replanting 2-for-1 the trees that we took out. So we will be adding some trees up there. So hopefully in the years to come, you'll see those start to fill out. The power outage that we had last week, we had some major issues down at our Lift Street pump station, sewer lift pump, that basically takes all of downtown and the north side of town out to the treatment plant out on Fairmont Avenue. So there are 4 pumps down there that pump all of that sewage basically down the tracks out to the plant on Fairmont. We have been looking at a bypass, thinking that if that plant ever went down, what would happen to that sewage? So we started looking into that about 3 months ago, and we were looking at some kind of bypass, but we had an issue with our generator down there that all of the pumps went out at Front Street during that power outage. Luckily, we had a overflow that went down to Neyland Street that we weren't sure was going to work. But thankfully it worked and pushed everything down to the Neyland Street lift station, which then pumped it to the treatment plant. So the actual project that we were thinking about, we were going to do a test on it to see if we could push sewage down to there. And this power outage actually did us a favor and showed us that we could. Yeah. So we pulled a plug down next to, across the street from the lift station at Neyland. And let that flow by gravity into the Neyland Park lift station. So that worked out great and actually showed us some things that we were trying to figure out and weren't quite sure how to get that figured out in a safe manner, but it ended up helping us out and worked out to be a positive. The Basin 3 project, the right of entry forms, we are down to 24 of those. We are going to make one more round to try and finish those off. That's about where you end up most times of the amount that you actually start a project with. We've gotten back a good amount of those, but you just have some somebody will not get back to you or will not fill it out and get it in. So we are about to the end of the right-of-way forms. And then in engineering, we have had quite a few projects working with Steve Gorchester, who we have as a consultant for street grants. He has been instrumental on getting things out the door for us as far as grants. We just applied for, about a month ago, the 2017 Emergency Repair Grant through TIV for $50,000. He actually, the day, he was one of the first ones to find out that that grant was out on the street, and it was a first come, first serve as far as getting acceptance to that. So he came out that day and took some pictures for us and got the grant submitted that day. So we were ahead of the curve on that one, so we are waiting to hear back. We should hear back in the next month or so, and that was just for general repair in certain routes. So we will wait to hear back from that one. We've got the 10% design for Alder Street that went out as an RFP a few weeks ago, and that is due back on the 10th, which is Wednesday at noon. So we will see what we get back for proposals on the design, the 10% design on Alder Street, so that we can get that also in Steve's hands to get a grant submitted either through TIV or another source. And then we are also working on a grant for, and I failed to mention that that $50,000 grant through TIV is a 100% grant. There is no match money, so that was fabulous. And then a grant for Turner Street. Steve went out and took a look at that one, and they've got a grant called an APP project grant, which is a sub-base grant where you have issues with a roadway because of the sub-base, where basically they till it up, mix in concrete to provide a sub-base, and then pave over it. And that is on one of the TIV routes. So he thought that would be a great place to apply for the APP grant, and it is a very, very low match, if any, for qualification. So I'm not sure where we would fit in that, but with our qualifications, I think we may be down towards the bottom, if any, of the match funding to get Turner Street done from 1st to 16th.
Wow.
So we have been busy with those things. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. If not, that is my update.
Oh, I had a question. I can't think of it right now.
I'll go first. Thank you very much for your hard work you're doing. The public really needs to know that there has been a whole change of attitude in this whole city government on how can I save the city money. That's like the motto, you know. And you got to get the Department Head of the Year award for doing that, because you have done a phenomenal job on all of these things, and you've gone outside of the box to do this, getting 10% match grants, 100% grant, so, you know, just working this. You are doing a great job, and this is how government should be. It should be that we exhaust all those opportunities for doing projects and getting as much funding as we can, and so.
Yes.
You're doing a great job on it. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I agree.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that we're getting things done. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, next I believe is our financial director, Nolan von Newdag.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. In finance, we have several ongoing projects that we're working on. I want to talk first about payroll and benefits and what we've been working on in that area. Thanks to a lot of hard work from Megan Croson, we now have all of our employees on direct deposit. And we should be all seeing our first paychecks show up in our bank accounts Wednesday morning.
My wife was asking about that. Wednesday morning?
Wednesday morning.
All right,
10.
thank you.
You're welcome. So payday changes from the 5th and 20th to the 10th and 25th, starting in May, and everybody's now on direct deposit. And Megan has been working with all of the employee groups and rolling out this employee self-service portal where you can log in, you can look at your pay history. For those employees, they can look at leave history, they can look at what their W-4 settings are, they can look at, they can run scenarios to see what their paycheck would look like if they wanted to change their W-4 settings. There's a lot of nice features with this employee self-service portal. One of those is being able to track time electronically instead of having to do paper timesheets. So that whole system is working really well. We're really happy about that. And Megan really has been the one to do a lot of the heavy lifting to get that up and running. She's done a great job on that. Speaking of Megan Croson, she is now officially our no longer interim accounting manager for the city of Shelton as of the 1st of April, excuse me. Megan's done a really great job of just standing in the gap while we've gone through a pretty big transition the last several months in my position. She has consistently demonstrated diligence, very strong work ethic, very high level of professionalism. She's always been willing to do whatever needs to be done to keep the finance department running smoothly, and I very much enjoy working with her. She's just a really strong person to have on the team, so I'm very happy to be promoting her to accounting manager for the city. I would have her here to congratulate her in person, but she has taken a couple of very well-deserved days off right now. She'll be back in on Wednesday, so she's done a great job. As far as our financial software, we're continuing to work with Tyler Technologies and with our IT staff. We're looking at the InterGov product, which we already have. It's part of our financial system, and that's going to help us with permitting and plans and some other components. We're also looking at a tool they have called Insight for utility billing that will allow our utility customers to not only just pay their utility bill online, but that will also allow them to look at their utility usage history and look at the invoices they've gotten in the past and what they've paid, et cetera. We're also looking at being able to utilize our current financial software for some other purposes, such as professional licenses for taxi drivers, for the taxi cabs themselves, and even for dog licenses. We're working with Tyler to see if there's a way to roll that all together into the software. And really the concept that we're trying to accomplish here is to integrate the information that we currently right now keep in all these separate little buckets that aren't always compatible into one integrated bucket that is compatible, where it'll be a lot easier to track all of this information. It'll be in one system, basically. So we're continuing to move along with that. As far as business licenses and renewals, our staff accountant, John Sam, has continued to work with local businesses, getting them current with their licenses and helping them get current with their B&O tax returns, and that's going really well. That whole system's getting cleaned up really nicely. Last week, we met with a representative from the Department of Revenue, and on Friday, the governor signed engrossed House Bill 2005 into law, and that law requires that within 5 years, all cities in the state of Washington utilize either their Department of Revenue's business licensing service or some other comparable business licensing service. And the whole point of that is to integrate all of the business licensing for a business. It's a combined licensing service that provides one-stop shopping for all businesses in the state to obtain and renew their business licenses, no matter how many cities the business may operate in. This improves the business climate in Washington state by simplifying the administration of municipal general business licenses. It means that if I own a business and I operate in Shelton and Tumwater and Lacey and Olympia, I will now be able to go to the Department of Revenue, one stop, and get all of my business licenses in one place. So it really is going to make this better for businesses in the state. The other thing it does is it really helps us in managing our staff time and resources. It's going to streamline things for us. So it's good for us, it's good for the businesses, and it'll be a pretty user-friendly module. Because this is something that's on a pretty steep ramp up right now, getting implemented at the state, we are in the queue to be rolled into their system later this year. So it's probably going to be toward the end of the year before we actually are able to get this up and running. We'll probably still have to send out business license renewals at the end of this year, but this will probably be the last time we have to do that. So we're working with them on that. As far as the gap to cash conversion project, we are working our way through that process with Tyler. Right now, we are in the process of preparing a large quantity of journal entries that we have to do within the software to make the transition from the accrual basis to the cash basis. So we're in the midst of that. We are anticipating having that completed and everything set over to the cash basis by probably early June. Last week, we met with the representatives from the Washington State Auditor's Office again, and we discussed with them again this gap to cash conversion. We also talked with them about the filing deadline for the annual report, pardon me, which is May 30th. And considering the extenuating circumstances that we're dealing with, we are not going to be able to hit that deadline. And although they understand that we can't hit the deadline, that doesn't mean they get to change the deadline for us. However, they do understand and acknowledge that we have an unusual situation, and we do anticipate being able to file by the end of July, and it should not have a negative impact on us. So we just want to make sure we're in close contact with them, working with them as we continue through this process. And let's see, solid waste transition. We are currently working with Mason County Garbage to begin the transition over to them providing garbage service starting in July. Bobby Smith, our utilities staff accountant, has been working very closely with their staff, and we're going to be meeting with them on Wednesday to start working through some of the details of that transition to make sure that this will be a seamless, easy change for our customers. They shouldn't really see much of an impact at all. So that is what I have. Any questions?
No, sounds good. Yeah, I've had many conversations with you, with the city manager, talking about things and stuff, and I think, I'm just excited about the way things are going. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Simple question. Why did we change it from the 5th to the 10th?
Because we needed more time to get the payroll processed accurately, and
Okay.
because the bank requires 3 business days to process the direct deposit electronic file.
Okay.
And when you have a weekend in there, that means that the time to process payroll gets compressed quite a bit.
Okay.
So it's
Very good.
part of it's the banking requirement.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much,
Thanks.
Nola. All right, any administration final touches?
2 things. I mentioned last time that we were hoping to hear back from Simpson regarding the city's acquisition of the in-town portion, or in the city portion of Simpson Railroad. We have yet to hear back from them, so we have been waiting for a few months now, and we're just wanted to give you an update that we're still working toward the direction you gave us at the end of last year, but at this point we are waiting to get final word on, or as to whether or not Simpson's agreeable to the contract we put forward to them. The other thing is that we need, next week we'll start discussions about an adjustment in the contract with Aspect Consulting. This is for the remedial investigation of the C Street landfill. They're not able to get through all the work that they need to, and they're asking for a modification in their scope of work to include some extra work that we think is reasonable, and the amount on there on that will likely be in excess of $100,000. So we'll brief on that, but I wanted to give you a touch today so that you have that in the back of your mind.
Thank you very much. Our next regular commission meeting will be Monday, May 15th, 2017, at 6 p.m. in the evening. This meeting is adjourned.